Dr. Ismail Asise with us this Tuesday morning, the 22nd of July, 2025. And now we start putting some of your questions to him. I'll start with a couple I sent you last week, because as soon as you left the studio, I got this one from the UK about road accidents. Hello, Mr. Gomez. Kindly ask Dr. Asise this on your next show. Road accidents in the Gambia are happening too often. Many people don't wear seatbelts regularly. Some drivers take them off after passing checkpoints, and children are sometimes seen standing in moving cars. What is the ministry doing to raise public awareness through clear and relatable messages? Can the ministry also work with young Gambian creatives who already make powerful content to help spread these safety messages on platforms where young people actually see them? And finally, are there plans to review how driver's licenses are given out and to check the condition and modifications of public transport vehicles? Many of these vehicles seem unsafe.
Yes, that's a very important point. But before I just respond to that, I'm pleased to inform the public that yes, traffic accidents are a problem in this country, and it can be a problem as anywhere in the world. Traffic accidents are accidents. What is important is that the number of accidents recorded in the Gambia has decreased in 2024. Now, in 2023, there were fatal accidents, not accidents. This is the statistics we have from the Gambia Bureau of Statistics. GBOS. In 2023, there were 130 recorded fatal cases in road accidents. In 2024, this reduced to 86. So at least there's some reduction there. But he's right. We need to do more sensitization. We need also to do more enforcement of our traffic laws. Now, sometimes you see vehicles that are not roadworthy. Under normal circumstances, they are not supposed to run, but they are running. That is why we are, like I said, some of the bottlenecks can be the outdated traffic laws. The Ministry of Works is coming up with a new transport bill. This will solve these problems.
I thought that came out already, didn't it?
Yeah, the validation was done, but it has to go through Parliament for it to be passed as to be transformed into an act. They are working on this. This will replace the outdated ones. Now, the most important thing that I can tell you, government has plans to introduce what they call a comprehensive vehicle testing system. There's currently testing, but it's not as comprehensive as in other countries where do what they call in the UK MOT, whereby you do a comprehensive test of the vehicles. Government has plans to do that, but also government also has plans to review and reform the licensing regime, how licensing is issued. Currently, the police issue licensing, but they also enforce licensing. The transport bill is one of the things that will solve that. Now, the idea is to have a similar to what they call the DVLA in the UK, whereby there's a special authority that will issue licenses, road traffic guidelines and regulations. So government also is working towards that. But these things are processes, because once, you see, that is what brings development. Problems come up and then challenges, and we create solutions to those problems. So there are plans. But like I said, yes, accidents are a problem. But there has been a reduction recently, because we've seen many people complain about checkpoints, but some of these checkpoints also can be useful, particularly in the South Bank, because people just speed, but when there are checkpoints along the way, it forces them to stop and then move. So we are taking note of this. We'll work with the, how do you call them again, Civic Education Department and the Ministry of Works to come up with targeted, how do you call it again? Messages in terms of wearing seat belts, in terms of overspeeding, and so on and so forth. Now, the problem is the citizens, us, we, because you also have to take responsibility. Wear your seat belts. Because sometimes I see a motorbike. I've seen one recently along the Jambai Road. A motorbike, a father, with wearing a helmet, with 3 girls, young daughters. They should not be above 5 years old, at the back of the motorcycle. No helmet, exposing them. I mean, that is irresponsible.
If that's not in the law, create the law
that
criminalizes riding a motorbike without wearing a helmet.
That's what I'm saying.
You won't see that in Rwanda.
Yes, but even if you wear a helmet, how do you put your 3 daughters at the back of your at the back of a motorbike.
Because right now, riding a motorbike, not wearing a helmet, is not a crime.
So that is why
and that's why I said you won't see that in Rwanda, because that is a crime in Rwanda.
We are working on
It doesn't matter whether you are carrying 10 passengers, as long as they are on board a motorbike, they must.
So we are working on that. Like I said, as a government, we are working on that. Because the government is working on multiple fronts. And Peter argued yesterday elsewhere that, look, the most difficult task has been given to the government of His Excellency the President. That is, you are expected to deliver a transition, a successful one. You are expected to give the needs of Gambians of today. They want water today. They want electricity today. They want security today. They want territorial integrity today. They want schools today. They want healthcare today.
He doesn't need 7 years to deliver that.
I'm thinking they need to provide those today because I'm talking about it's different. The transition should be done with the reforms, but then you also have to provide service to the Gambians today. That's what they expect you to do. But also you need to build a country.
That's what you promised to do.
That's
not
what
just expect. That's what you promised to do.
And
And once you promise, people expect you to deliver on your promise.
You need to also build a country for the future as well, to make sure the next government that comes
still part of the promises.
That's what I'm saying. But it's still but at the back of a very difficult global environment with COVID-19 and the wars, and also so I mean but still, despite all this, the government of His Excellency the President is doing a very good job in delivering his promises, in making sure we have a successful transition, but also in making sure that he's building the foundations for the future generations of this country. By what? Building the capacity of young people with skills, building all this vocational training in both the multipurpose ones and the specialized ones, building universities, building the new Gambia College University, building the University of the Civil Service, building USET, transforming UTG into, so he's doing all these things, making sure that he build the human resource capacity, human resource base, building the infrastructure. So I think the president should be commended for his good job. So, but coming back to the question of the accident, we need to do first, obviously, as a government, we are doing what we can. We'll take a note and we'll make sure that we take necessary measures to protect citizens on the road.
There's for me, the most important, bit of the contribution is the final paragraph.
Yes.
And the IGP is a big fan of the program. I hope he's listening. Finally, are there plans to review how driver's licenses are given out and to check the condition and modifications of public transport vehicles?
Yes.
I mean, some taxi vehicles have these fog lights, which even in the middle of the afternoon, if they put them on you, they blind you.
Yeah. Yes.
Why do they allow such?
So, like I said, I've answered that question. There are plans in the new transport bill to see whether we can be able to create this new authority. This new authority.
Some of them are just not unnecessary. They are dangerous even.
I understand. But also there will be standards. Not only there will be standards for taxis. There will be new standards. That is, because as society develops, taxis must be regulated as well. And I think PURA has those ideas as well, because PURA is one that regulates the transport sector, to make sure there are standards in place for commercial vehicles so that they don't put lives at risk and so that their safety is guaranteed. So we are taking note of all this feedback we are receiving from the public. I'll take this feedback back to government to say, hey, it's important we start making regulations on taxis, commercial vehicles, but also private vehicles to provide, because one of the primary responsibilities of a government is the safety of your citizens.
Absolutely.
And this must be provided.
Absolutely. So that was the contribution from the UK. Then we got this one from Germany. Good morning, Peter. I would like to commend Dr. Cisse for the transformation he has done at his ministry, because he has been very engaging with the citizens in terms of information. But then, kindly tell him that Barrow's government is a carbon copy of JAMMEH's government, because JAMMEH was building roads, hospitals, markets, schools, and many social amenities. But what overshadowed his good work was massive human rights violations and rampant corruption and nepotism, and also the blame game, as he was blaming the British government and Jawara's government for 22 years. The same trend is what is going on right now with Barrow, and tell him that the corruption in Barrow's government is far serious than JAMMEH's, because during JAMMEH, it was only him that looted Gambia. But now it's like few people benefiting from the national cake. Finally, I would like to thank him for his service once more.
Well, The word carbon copy, do I agree? No, it cannot be. And then, I mean, like I said, even a child born today.
Well, you just blame the JAMMEH government, the Jawara government, and even the British government for not giving us as many roads.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
what I'm saying. That
so
I said.
The blame game is on.
No, we're not blaming. It's not a blame game. We are giving facts. These are facts. I'm giving you statistics, facts, empirical evidence that the number of classrooms President Barrow has built surpasses within this 8 years period what was built before within the same period. Number of roads he's built far surpasses what was built combined by the 3 previous administrations. His investments in agriculture, in energy, in healthcare also surpasses. So there cannot be a carbon copy. But that is, by the way, a response. But the most crucial response is that when it comes to corruption, I think people need to understand that this government of His Excellency, these efforts and measures it has taken to fight corruption, no government has done it before. And I disagree with people who say that under JAMMEH, he was the only one engaging in corruption. No. It wasn't reported. The institutions that were supposed to fight and expose corruption were not functioning. So that way it wasn't exposed. What the President Barrow has done is to let those institutions function properly and strengthen those institutions to fight corruption. So that is why we've seen a lot of cases coming up. Because if these institutions that were supposed to fight corruption and to expose corruption under JAMMEH were not functioning, we cannot see cases of corruption. The reason why we are seeing cases today is because the institutions are functioning. So we should give credit to President Barrow for that. So the PACPEC wasn't functioning as it was supposed to function, so it cannot really deal with corruption issues. Secondly, this National Audit Office, which has unearthed a lot of supposed alleged corruption practices, wasn't also functioning properly. And the most important thing is that we've come up with a new anti-corruption act, where now we are going to very soon swear in the commissioners so they can also function. So this government is serious in fighting corruption. And like I said, Peter, people need to understand one thing. Arresting, prosecuting, and jailing people for corruption is one thing. Yes, it can serve as a deterrent, but it's not a very comprehensive deterrent. If it worked to stop corruption, the prison system as an institution would also work in stopping crime. We've had the prison institutes for hundreds of years. What is the purpose of prison? It's not only to rehabilitate people.
Who do you know who was sent to prison for corruption?
Now, I'm just giving an example.
That's the issue.
Now I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'll get to that. I'll answer that question. The purpose of prison is to deter future crime, but also to rehabilitate criminals. But in terms of deterrence, it has failed as an institution because people still commit crime, even though there's prison. So jailing people and prosecuting people for supposed corruption, it's not the only way to fight corruption. What this government has done is to have a dual approach. Yes, we take the cases for prosecution, but also we are building the systems and the processes, robust ones, to prevent corruption and also to make sure there's no impunity in this country. That is what this government is doing. And this is also equally important. Yes, we are...
There's no impunity.
No, what I'm saying is we're not accepting it. That is why there's no impunity.
Set an example with Abasanyang.
But he's in the case in the courts. You cannot blame the executive as what it's supposed to do. Taking a case, take it to the courts. Like we live in a democracy, the 3 arms of government, Peter. Remember? They're supposed to operate independently of each other. There should be checks and balances. The judiciary is functioning as an independent entity. They're supposed to now deal with the case. What the executive does is to prosecute and take it to the courts.
So the judiciary is what is failing us.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, the case is in the courts. So we cannot really go because the judiciary is independent. The government cannot go and say judiciary fast track Abbas case or fast track or jail. We cannot engage in that. That is not rule of law. That's not democracy. So what we do as a government, as an executive, is to make sure that we do what we're supposed to do. Strengthen the oversight institutions, but also strengthen institutions that can make sure that people are prosecuted. Now, when it goes to the courts, it's an independent game there. Let them, they are doing their job. So for me, I think sometimes we are unfair to this government to say corruption, 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 corruption. You see, this is something that it's a scheme by the opposition. They don't have anything to tell this government.
Opposition?
Of course, yes. They try to tell people like, oh, corruption, corruption,
so
corruption.
Am I opposition? Because I talk about corruption all the time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the manner in which they exaggerate it, like the way it is happening in this country, like it's all doom. That's not the case. The government is making, at least you accept, even though you talk about it. but you accept that we are doing something about it. We know there's a problem. We know corruption is a problem in this country. But hey,
so the opposition does not accept you doing anything about it?
Exactly. They think that the government is not still fighting corruption. That's what they tell the people. It's not serious fighting corruption. No, that's not the case. That is wrong. We are serious in fighting corruption. That is why we strengthen oversight institutions. That is why we let all the arms of democracy to work and function. That is why we make sure that it is exposed. If the were not, there will be no exposure. So the JAMMEH is not about JAMMEH only. No, there was corruption under JAMMEH, but it wasn't reported.
Oh, no, nobody's saying there was no corruption under
no,
JAMMEH.
No, but
his point was only JAMMEH was corrupt.
It means there was no corruption.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what you're taking issue with.
No, what I'm saying is that what has changed is that now the institutions that expose corruption are functioning now. So it is exposed. But also the most important thing also, Peter, remember, under JAMMEH, there was no online media. The media wasn't vibrant.
Oh, there was
no Malagan.
There was freedom newspaper.
No, but freedom, only freedom. But there was no Malagan investigative reporting. There was no online media. There was no so many radios. When you go to the only thing is JRTS. So now what we've seen is an explosion.
You mean there was no West Coast radio on the?
Well, you are not talking about we are talking about JAMMEH's corruption. No, you are not talking about. You are talking about sports and culture and music.
Coffee Time was not even doing anything local.
Exactly.
It was all international.
Exactly.
News
So
at
now
the time.
things have changed. Now there's more reporting. Journalists are freer. There's more. That is why we've seen all these cases, and I think we should commend the government for taking a strong stance in exposing corruption.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Okay, let's move on. Peter, please bring the minister to discuss about the satellite issue. Is the minister intentionally stopping Starlink to benefit AfriCell, QCell, and other agencies?
No,
the minister here being Jabi. When can you bring us Jabi?
I can say categorically no. That is not the purpose. Like I said, there are regulatory issues.
Why don't you bring Jabi here to say it for himself?
The last time he was listening, when you said that it's difficult, and I agreed with you, it's difficult to bring him, and he told me that you exposed me to Peter. I said, Peter, you have to go.
I sent him a message.
Yeah, he will come. Maybe I'll try to see if he can come next week. I'll call him immediately.
And what disappoints me, he's an alumnus of St. Augustine's High School.
He will come.
We are always available.
He's a sharp guy. He's a sharp guy, a very sharp guy. And
he can't go to St. Augustine's and not be sharp.
He knows his stuff. He knows what he's doing. He has a deep understanding of the sector. He will come, but like I said, no. The answer is no.
Okay.
There are regulatory lapses. Like I said, the regulation doesn't cater for new technologies like satellite technology, and we need to look at those things and how to go about it, because we need to protect Gambians and the interest of Gambia in any case. Now, there's a committee which is set up involving, I think, Gamtel Pura and some, not Gamtel Pura, I can't remember, but there's a committee set up to really look at these issues and work on the license. What I can confirm to the public is that Starlink has applied for a license, and the government is looking at this license application.